Hi, welcome to the Unfiltered Show. We're so excited today. This has been a treat. It's been a long time coming. We've been watching this lady here for a little bit, and we've just been so impressed with all that she does and all that she is. Just a wonderful, wonderful pillar of everything that's right and good about what we do here in this space. So, on this Unfiltered Show today, we're going to get introduced to Lisbet Newton. And I will tell you that I have now had a chance to meet with her a few times, and she never ceases to impress. Super organized, super professional. And we're going to talk today about what drives her heart, what drives her mission, what drives her passions. Certainly, she's taken a few turns in life. She's an adult, so not everything may have gone according to plan, but she's always pivoting in the right direction. Her heart is centered towards doing good and doing what's right. And she is a huge advocate and an ambassador for the nonprofit space. And we're going to talk today specifically about what's driving her heart to work in that space, the challenges as well as the rewards that comes with that. So, good afternoon, Lisbeth. How are you today?
Hello, Butch. I'm so excited to be here and share the space with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's been an honor. It's been an honor. Lisbeth, tell us a little bit about your background. I believe there is a little bit of, and I might butcher this, but is there a little Cuban in there somewhere?
Yes, there is. I'm originally from Cuba. I migrated to this great country when I was 3 years old, and I've been here ever since. So about 15 years ago.
So your math is like my math. Yeah,
Right,
yeah. So
right.
you're about a year or two younger than I am.
Yeah. So to me, this is my home. The United States has been my home, and I can't imagine growing up anywhere else. And I had the privilege of being coming to Houston during a time when there was not a lot of exposure. So I had to really deep dive into the American way, and really I remember starting kindergarten, and I was the only kid in class that didn't know how to speak English. And
Wow.
I learned how to speak English by watching Sesame Street,
Me too.
and yeah, reading Rainbow, and that's how I became educated on the ways of the United States.
So why Houston, right? Because the large Cuban migrant community is usually in Florida, South Florida to be specific.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Houston?
Well, like a lot of immigrant families, my parents had family here in Houston, so it
Okay.
was an easy choice for them. And back in the '80s, things were rough in Miami. It was not an easy transition. So they decided to move here to Houston, which I'm very glad that they did, because it
Right.
really gave me a completely different environment to grow up in.
How big's the family, the immediate family, and then the extended family in the Houston community?
Well, there have been a lot of Cubans that have migrated here to Houston in the last 10 years. I remember there used to be a time when I would meet a Cuban in Houston, and it was like spotting a great whale. Wow, you're also Cuban! I can't believe it. But now it's very common. There's a lot of Cubans here. There's a lot of you'll find Cuban restaurants. You'll find Cuban grocery stores. So there is a lot of Cubanness that you can tap into in Houston without having to go visit Cuba yourself.
It's interesting you say that. I spoke at a conference recently in Houston, and I actually ended up having dinner at a Cuban restaurant.
Yeah,
This was my first time really having Cuban food, as if you can call it authentic. It was made by Cubans.
yeah.
All the chefs are Cuban. So Lisbeth, you're 100% Cuban. Mom and dad both Cuban.
Yes, yes. I was born in Cuba, and I came here when I was 3, and the rest is history.
Wow. Let's talk about that for a second. Have you been back to Cuba since you?
No, no, I haven't, and I draw a line in the concrete, and this is going to be super controversial. It's
Hey,
probably
we're
my
unfiltered. We're
okay.
unfiltered. It's
It's
nothing
my
but controversy.
perfect. It's my most controversial stance. I will not go back to Cuba because I have nothing. I have no intention of supporting communism, which is what people do when they go to visit Cuba. And I understand that there's a lot of people with family there and
Yeah.
they go because they want to visit their family. And I don't judge that, but for myself, I have chosen not to support that system, so I don't have a reason to go back. To me, my culture is in Miami, however odd that seems.
Yeah.
When I think of going back home, I think of Miami as my home.
So a little judgment, right? A little
Yeah, a
judgment,
little bit, maybe a little bit, but
maybe a little bit.
everyone does things however they choose, and they have different experiences with it. To me, communism has always stood for something negative. It
For
has
sure.
it tore my family apart, and because of that, I have nothing to. I don't want to contribute to that.
So we're going to pivot for a little bit because I'm fascinated by politics, government. I grew up in a republic that is almost masked as a socialist or communist country, which is Singapore. And call it what you want. We're a first world country today, but that's always because of forced manipulation and progression. But you still have cousins and people in Cuba that you keep in contact with, or completely lost ties of everything?
Well, we do now because of technology and the advancement
Yeah,
in communication. It's a lot easier to have conversations now. When we first came here in 1980, everything was monitored. You would make phone calls to Cuba and you would be cut off at the 5 minute mark.
yeah,
Um, Half the time you couldn't understand what they were saying on the other line. So things were a lot different back then than they are today. Today, I've been able to get in touch with my cousins that I had never met at one point in time.
yeah,
Over the last 5 years, there have been a lot of my family that has come here to the United States because of what had been happening with immigration. So a
yeah.
lot of things have changed, and some things for the better, some things for the worse. And I just keep being myself. One rule that I have adopted, though, which I will tell you, is I do everything I can to not talk about politics because
Yeah.
I am very much wanting to stay in the flow of positivity. And
Yes.
the thing about politics is the actors are always changing, but the stories stay the same. And
Yeah.
me being involved and getting so wound up in politics because it's so easy to do will only disturb my sleep. And the number one thing that I can do for my health is make sure that I sleep well at night. So I do everything I can to not engage in those conversations.
And that's working for you, obviously. No, I'm excited to
It
hear that as well.
is.
Um, Being an immigrant myself, there was always the perception with speaking with my cousins or stuff back home, and I do visit Singapore very often. But the perception is that I'm the lucky one because I get to live in this country, and therefore I can't truly understand or appreciate some of their daily struggles that they're experiencing. Do you pick up on some of that with your cousins or stuff when you're on the phone with them or anything? Like you're the lucky one?
Well, 100%. Well, people that are here actually. So I'll meet someone that came here from Cuba maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they'll
Yeah,
ask me about my story, and I tell them, and they'll say to me, "Oh, you're not Cuban. You're American. You're not Cuban." And there's always, I guess, it's part of being human that we try to, even though we are all one, we try to separate ourselves from other people because maybe that makes us feel better. I don't know why a lot of people do it that way, but I consider myself just as Cuban as everyone else that is from Cuba.
yeah,
But I have had in the last 6 months, I have had to completely change my diet, and I pretty much cannot eat anything that a normal Cuban would eat because it makes me sick.
yeah.
So I guess in some ways I've become more and more Americanized as the years go by.
And how much of that is diluted even more with your daughter? How much Cuban heritage is continuing with her?
Well, I have three kids. So
Okay.
I have two sons and my daughter who's in high school right now. And I've done as much as I could to keep traditions, traditions like more of Americanized traditions that we have
Yeah.
now, like the La Noche Buena, which is on the 24th. We celebrate the 24th of December, and we keep that tradition. And certain other things that we keep uh, that really revolve around food. But about at the beginning of the year, I became really sick, and I couldn't figure out why. And it got to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. Putting on shoes would hurt it would hurt to walk.
Wow.
And I didn't want to go to the doctor because my mom has an autoimmune disorder, and I was afraid that that's what I had. And I thought, well, if I go to the doctor, he's going to
Yeah.
give me, or she is going to give me the same prescriptions that they give to her. And I've seen what that has done to her. And I don't want that for myself. So I did what everyone does that doesn't want to go to the doctor. I went on YouTube and I looked up my symptoms, and I saw this video, and it's a story that I would love to talk about if you don't mind,
That's please. I want to hear it.
because I think that it really resonates with people when they hear it, because there's so many people going through this right now, and it's what really has led up to this point where I'm at today. Um, I saw one video. It was enough. It was a video that talked about the different foods that you should not eat because they cause inflammation. And leading up to that day when I tried to get out of bed and everything was hurting, I had been struggling with, and I knew this, but I kept doing it. I had been struggling with sugar. I would eat something like a dessert, which I
Yeah.
loved. I had a massive sweet tooth. And within an hour, I was in bed, knocked out, as if I had just done some drugs or something. I don't know if that's what happens when people do drugs, but it it would knock me out for at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours, almost
Wow.
like a sugar coma. And I kept on. I ignored it up until my body said, "Hey, we're not doing this anymore. You're going to listen, and if you don't listen, it's going to be really painful." And that's exactly what happened. So that day, when I watched that video, it listed 17 foods that would trigger massive inflammation. And so that's what I was dealing with. I was dealing with massive body inflammation.
Wow.
Every time I would eat something that had wheat, that had gluten, bread, pasta, certain vegetables would trigger. So I started experimenting, because it's very difficult to spend all of your life up till a certain point eating whatever you want, and then one day it's all pulled from you, not from your choice,
Yeah.
but because your body is demanding it. I mean, imagine Butch eating a piece of bread and then laying in bed in agonizing pain.
Yeah.
That's what I was going through.
Yeah.
And I had to learn through trial and error that as much as I love that bread with the garlic, that is in every Cuban food that you eat, it's not worth the pain that comes after it. And I am now pretty much, I hardly ever eat any desserts. And I used to be a sugar addict, 100%. And I'm now to the point where I can't remember the last time I sat down and had a bowl of cereal, ice cream,
So no
whatever.
Haagen Dazs, no M&Ms.
Nothing. I don't eat chocolate, which I loved. It was like my indulgence. Whenever I felt bad, whenever I was depressed, I would go after the sweets. And what that would happen is it would continue the cycle, because sugar is an inflammatory food.
Right.
There have been studies that have linked sugar to obviously diabetes, brain fog, all kinds of situations that we encounter today. Depression is linked to sugar, believe it or not. And I started seeing a pattern after I took out all these foods and I would reintroduce them one by one, just to see if I reintroduce tomatoes, is it going to make me feel bad? Yes, tomatoes do make me feel bad. I know
Wow.
exactly what it causes. And I've been sharing those that story with other people, and they can relate. Like, oh wow, I feel that too. When I eat rice, it makes me sick. Rice. Can you imagine not being able
Right.
to eat rice? So through that transformation that I went through, I started peeling all kinds of other things out of my life. I started looking at my life in a different way because I could no longer relate to the world around me like I used to be able to.
Yeah.
Because everything that we do is around food, right? When you sit down with your family at the table, you all share the same food.
Yeah.
So what happens when you can no longer do that? You go to a business meeting and everyone around you, you all share in the same types of delicious food and dessert and wine and drinks.
Yeah.
What happens when all that is pulled away from you? You can't do that anymore.
So you become antisocial and people laugh at you.
Yes, or people don't understand. Oh,
Right.
you're gluten intolerant, and they
You
make
must
fun
be from California.
right? Tree hugger. And so that took a lot of, I think that was the most transformative part was the social aspect of what I had to give up. And that led to a complete overhaul of my life as I knew it back then. Um, and I started asking questions like, what can I do, God? What can I do to actually contribute to the world around me?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. I wasn't in a place where I could look at my life. I mean, my kids are healthy. My kids are happy. I'm going to be a grandmother soon.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah. And all these wonderful things are happening. But I really didn't feel like I was serving my purpose in the world. So I asked God, what can I do to actually make or help change or do something that I can look back and feel fulfilled. And the answer came to me actually when I met you, believe it or not. And I decided to connect into Fundable 360. I didn't know why. For me, it was a huge investment.
Yeah.
I thought I felt like I was driven. Like I had to get into the program, and I did. And I met you through Carl Scott. And then I got into the program, and then I found out about Share 360.
Yeah.
And I drove out, and I had been a hermit up until then. So it was about
Wow.
4 or 5 months of being this hermit lifestyle that I had adopted. And I went out to the event to meet you. I went out twice, I believe. And then I got into the Share 360 program. And about 2 weeks later, I had this vision that came to me called community kites. And the symbolism of a kite is a kite has to fly against the wind. And that's what a lot of nonprofits do. They fly
Wow.
against the wind, right?
That's
The non
deep.
right, it is. It is very, very deep. So that was my answer that I had prayed for was community kites as this brand
Hang
that
on, let me interrupt you for a second. Are you mildly suggesting that in some of your conversations with God, I entered your life? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I
Oh,
was
oh,
divinely driven. Absolutely. Yeah.
oh! I don't know if I've ever been called God sent. I'm taking this as a win.
You definitely were a godsend. If you would not have if if we would not have met, then what would I have done with community kites? How could I have formed that into something that would help me touch these nonprofits, not just one,
Right,
because my original prayer to God was I want to help. I want to do something that can help people, but there's only one of me, right?
right,
So how do you help multiple nonprofits do do something amazing in the world, and that's how we connected, and it was one piece after another, and And now I've got into into your program, the Share 360 program. I've got four nonprofits that I'm working on bringing on board, and what they're doing in the Houston area is phenomenal. Each one of them has a different mission, and they're really out to change. I mean, if they just change one life, like when you think about how deep that is,
It's
just
deep.
change. Yeah, you if you have the power to be able to change one life for the positive, the ripple effect of that,
It's
it's
deep.
it's it's amazing. It's massive.
And we think about the ripple effect, but even without the ripple effect, just being able to impact one other life form in this world, right? I've been blessed my entire life. I've always been surrounded by people way better than me, way kinder than me, way smarter than me. That's easy. I could be in any room and everyone is smarter than me, but they've been kind and loving and giving, and I've been a beneficiary of that my entire life. And the difference that each person has made impacted me in a permanent way. I know then if I did no good, just the difference it made in me was special. Hopefully, I continue to do some good, and that's when the ripple effect comes in. But no, I love it. I'm going to ask you a question. When it comes to the nonprofits, um, you know, when people hear the word nonprofit, they always immediately gravitate to like a Mother Teresa type of an image. You're dealing with destitute, helpless people in dire need, and some of that often is true, and a lot of that is true. But in the scope of nonprofits, it's so diverse. There is so much need, it's insatiable almost, right? No amount of money. So before we talk about what drives you, I'm going to pose this question because public opinion does influence a lot of how we decide how to live our lives, whether we agree with that or not.
Mhm.
So when you read in the news about Bill Gates donating X number of dollars to a cause, or Elon Musk, or Warren Buffett, um, often it's faced with criticism because public opinion is either it's not enough money, they have so much, they can do with less, or why give it all to this one place when they could have given it out to four other places? So everyone, much like a you know what, has an opinion. So tell me your thoughts on that first. Are you the consensus where you read something and you go, oh, he should have given it to this and this, or do you celebrate every donor just for what it is, a good-hearted move?
I heard a story, and I might chop it up and tell it differently. I can't even remember where I heard it now. There was a farmer who had a stallion, and one day the stallion, he wins a race, and all the villagers come out and they congratulate the farmer. Oh, your stallion won, and the farmer said, oh well, it's neither here nor there. And then a few days later, the farmer is riding the stallion, and he kicks him off and he breaks his leg. And the villagers all come in and say, "Oh, we're so sorry that this happened with the stallion. It was such an accident. How terrible!" And the farmer said, "Oh, it's neither here nor there." And all these things kept on happening around the stallion, and the farmer's response was always, "Oh, it's neither here nor there."
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's because of the transformation that I went through beginning January of this year, 2025. That's how I look at life. It's neither good or bad. It just is. If Bill Gates, and
wonderful.
he has such a bad reputation now. People have accused him of all kinds of things. I think there's something out there that says that he eats babies for breakfast or something.
Right.
So there have been all these horrible things that people have said, and that happens all throughout time because some people feel better by looking at other people's defects. instead of saying, you know what, that is what they chose to do at this moment is for whatever reason, and
Correct.
they might not know that reason. And it's like we see that a lot on social media today. It's happened to me. It's happened to people that I know. I'll share a post and I will get attacked by two or three people for no reason at all because they feel like their perspective is the only right perspective, and that's not the case. There's 100 reasons why Elon Musk or Bill Gates might decide to donate to a certain charity and not to another, and it's their prerogative. It's their money. They worked for it. They put in the right people in the right place to make the money to get to the point where they're at now to be able to do what they do. And isn't it a great thing? I there's a lot of nonprofits that I can reach out to. I'm only reaching out to certain nonprofits to bring them into this program because I believe in what they do for different reasons. And that doesn't make another nonprofit good or bad. It just is what it is.
It is what it is. And that's a very great perspective. You and the farmer are wise people. Um, so you have made it your mission right now to reach out at a community level and work with these nonprofits that you either believe in their program, buy into the leadership. A lot of that has to matter, obviously. We want to make sure we're working with good people doing good things.
Yeah.
Um, what are you most excited about with the interactions that you've had with either the nonprofits itself or your vision of the impact that you feel it'll make in the community? Give me an example.
So for about 5 years, back in 2020 during COVID, I had this vision. It was like a freight train that passed by me while I was outside pondering the fate of the world, and it said the name Houston City Beat. And I was like, wow, that's really strange and odd. So I did what anyone would do, I think. I went to my phone and I went to GoDaddy and looked up the name, and much to my surprise, HoustonCityBeat.com was available. So I bought it. And
I love
up
that.
until December of 2024, Houston City Beat, I developed this along with a business partner, and there were nights when I would go to sleep with nothing left. I had like negative, like when you look at your energy level, I had negative energy level, and this would happen constantly to the point where I was wearing myself thin. I had nothing left, and I would pour everything I had out, and no one cared. It didn't matter how great the stories were that we created. It didn't matter how great the website looked. It didn't matter how much money we were pouring into it from ourselves. None of that mattered because the people, business owners, didn't care to advertise. And it has been one of the most difficult things that I've ever had to deal with. When you love something so much and you want to see it succeed, but all it does is fail. In my mind, success meant money. That's what I
Sure.
would be successful if I made this much money, right? And that wasn't happening.
Why do you think it was broken? Why do you think the community didn't engage with the vision of tying into the heartbeat or the vibe of the city? Why was there lack of interest?
I can't answer that for you. I really don't know.
Yeah,
And it's not that it has failed, because if you look at where Houston City Beat is today, thanks to Mike Acosta, who's still running it, um, it just passed 1 million views on social media across all of the social channels.
congratulations. Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
huge success on that end. But for me, where it truly made an impact in my life was obviously on the financial part of it, right? Because you can't eat off of social media likes. It doesn't work. You can get 1 million likes on social media, but your bank account isn't going to show any different, right?
Yeah.
And so it burned me out. I was left with nothing. Emotionally, I was completely drained. And that's when my whole transformation process started at the beginning of January. Um, Fast forward, one day the thought came to me how hard it was for me during that phase to get the startup started, because there was nothing there. It was Houston City Beat was nothing. It was just a name. I bought it, and then it was a transition on what does it turn into. And it was one of the most difficult things that I did. And I thought to myself, all of these nonprofits that I know, because I interviewed a lot of them, how hard is it for those people to be able to find funding? They're not selling anything. And if it was that hard for us, because we were selling promotion, get your business out there, get your business exposed through HoustonCityBeat.com. It's a great it was it's a and it still is a great engine for businesses.
Yeah.
How much harder is it for a nonprofit? How much harder is it for one of these great leaders that I'm working with now to get their mission heard, for people to donate? Sometimes it's impossible, and sometimes they give up. And how many people out there are doing so much good that they end up giving up because they can't afford to continue funding, because the money isn't channeling that way, you know? And when I heard about this program through Share 360, that's when everything just connected and made sense to me, that I had to be a part of this, and I had to help. And to the point where we are now.
I believe that, my rude awakening was, 2023, 2024. I worked alongside with Team USA, and part of what I was trying to do with them was bring that identity to small businesses who wanted to partner with them. And in my mind, when I first saw the project, I thought to myself, I'm an immigrant. I'm very proud of this country. I love it. I've been here for 30 some years. This is definitely home. And to me, I'm so grateful for the brand, the country itself, right? And what it stands for and what it represents. So forget the politics, just the overall goodness of what built this nation. And so when I got introduced to the idea of working with the brand, I'm thinking to myself, oh, everyone is going to rush to jump at this opportunity. Everyone's going to bang down my door to get a piece of it, because it's an amazing brand. And here's what I realized: businesses didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care when it came time to write a check. All of a sudden, their level of care, patriotism, everything just diminished, because I think to some extent the race for self-profit, self-enrichment has been beat into us so much that giving up something feels like I'm losing ground.
Yeah.
And if I gave something of myself, it means somebody else is going to pass me up and have an edge because I'm distracted. It was an unfortunate but realistic experience, and that's kind of what brought us to create these programs to change the way the focus shift the focus from giving to basically passive decisions, right? Which is kind of how the program is today. So you are an advocate for nonprofits. You have a great relationship now where you have an opportunity to work hand in hand with some banking relationships to be able to, for zero cost to everybody involved, channel monies into a nonprofit. So you knock enthusiastically on a nonprofit's door. You can't wait to share this news with them. It's almost like you found the Holy Grail. It's almost like you've cracked the code. It's almost like you found all the magic of a genie lamp. And you speak with the nonprofit about how you can essentially transform their finances perpetually, and they may or may not share your enthusiasm. Why is that?
That's true. Well, there's a lot of reasons why that happens. And when I went into this, when I first met you, you said something that I think shifted a lot of things in my perspective. If if I'm selling something, if I'm promoting something, and I know that it's great, because I wouldn't be behind something that isn't,
Yeah.
and that person doesn't resonate with what I'm talking about, I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to continue finding the people that are going to listen. And
Yeah.
that to me was a huge shift, because well, one of the things that I've always hated, that I has been my biggest stumbling block, was that when I would pitch something to someone and they would reject me, it would hurt me to my core. And I struggled with that for a long time. And I know some people are going to listen to this and be like, that's so stupid. But we all approach the world in a different way. And that is how I approach the world. No matter how much money I've spent on training to try to reverse that pattern that I have, it's a pattern that I have. So that what you shared with us in that group that day really helped me put things into perspective. And I have reached out to nonprofits, and they have turned me down. So I haven't talked to you
Crazy, isn't
about.
it?
Yeah, it is. And a lot of that is because of our own our perceptions of the world. And some people will hear about this opportunity and they'll be like, ah, it's too good to be true. Maybe they have been in they were dealt a bad card not too long ago. Maybe they're going through depression. There's a lot of people walking around that are depressed, fully functioning, and you would never notice.
Yeah.
That might be a factor. There's so many reasons why someone can turn down something that is life changing, or maybe their heart isn't in the nonprofit anymore. Maybe they got into it for the wrong reasons. There's 100 different reasons why, and if they were meant to have the advantage, okay, because it is a blessing to work with me, right? If they were
Really
meant,
is.
right? Yes, yes. So if they were meant for that blessing, then it would happen naturally. And if they're not, then it doesn't. And I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And I hope that at some point down the road, they find a way to make their dream come true. That they find a way to get their organization's mission out there. But it's not going to be through me. So
So you're hardcore. I always tease you about that, and I love that actually about you. So let me ask you this, and then I'm going to ask you the positive side after this. What is, as you've been having conversations with your passion for serving nonprofits, and you have a way to be able to make a difference, significant difference, in fact, probably the biggest difference they could conceive from their inception, you can bring that to the table. So share with us some of the frustrations that you've experienced or you anticipate in presenting those ideas. And then I'm going to ask you after that to share some of the joys as well.
yeah. Well, in terms of the nonprofits' hesitations,
Yeah. Oh, just your frustrations and having to internalize that, right? I mean, you almost have the ticket to the dance,
yeah,
and you get a plus one, right? And it's the best dance ever.
yeah,
And and I know you just shared that there's a variety of reasons why somebody might not respond accordingly, but how do you handle knowing that you could have made a difference? Is it just a business decision at that point? Well, they don't get it. I'm moving on.
that's
It's
right.
their loss.
That's
Dust your
correct.
feet.
So they either God opens their heart and ears to listen, or God doesn't. And I'm not going to second guess why someone
Okay.
is or isn't agreeable to listen. That why they're not opening their heart. It's not. Um, God knows why, and I might not understand it, and that's fine. My whole mission is to share the message, and it's up to that individual to accept it or let it walk away, and I'm okay with that. There are many nonprofit leaders. They decide to invest, because you first have to start with putting in your own money into a
Yeah.
nonprofit to get it going, right? So you take your own money away from something that you could have done something with yourself, with your family, and you put it into this vision. And then it's about, well, how do I organize people around this that can support it? And that could be the first stumbling block, right? So you hit your first stumbling block of you can't find enough people, or people come and go, because someone can join your nonprofit today, and today they're single, they just graduated college, they have a whole world in front of them, and then tomorrow they fall in love with the wrong person, they fall into the wrong steps of life, and now all of a sudden they don't have the time or the passion to pursue helping you with your nonprofit's vision, and they drop out. And so there's different reasons why people come and go, and I know that in me having these conversations with nonprofits, one of the nonprofit leaders that we spoke to, that was their concern. I could see it in their face when we were having that conversation a few weeks ago, how they became real sullen because they realized all of this baggage that they were carrying. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to bring up, in that situation I felt comfortable enough to have that conversation because I didn't want the opportunity to go away from them. And I brought it up. What's your hesitation? Well, what's the reason that you look so sad? I believe I even called out the emotion. What's the reason that you look so sad? And the answer was, well, I'm not going to have enough people to do this. We don't sell, right?
Right.
That's most people's first line of hesitation. I'm not. I don't sell. We all sell. Every single one of us, even me who hates selling. Okay, uh, we are always selling. We're always selling our next idea. We're selling the message to get our kids to get up on time to go to school. We're always selling something.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of why people are hesitant to jump on board. Even this opportunity, however wonderful it is, it's still a hard sell.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fast forward 3 years, and you have now been able to impact. Let's think small for a second, which is usually words that don't come out of my mouth. Let's say there's 10 nonprofits that are thriving in the ecosystem, and because of you and what you've been able to bring to them with your ideas and your access and your your abilities to put it all together. You've now refaced their financial future. You can give them an unending source of income, and they can truly go make a difference and do the things that they were designed to do. What does that do to you? Be selfish for a minute. What does that do to you and your mindset and your heart? And what does that do to you as a person, as a human being, knowing that you did the hard part to see this come to fruition? And if you never did anything again, we talked about impacting one life. If you never did anything again, you could never measure the impact, the level of impact you will have on the community going forward,
Yeah.
because you couldn't.
No. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Right.
My my vision. So I have a digital marketing background, and what I'm doing now as I guess a job is I work with clients and helping them become successful in what it is that they're doing. So I see my role as with what I'm doing with Share 360 much the same way. My role is to help these nonprofit leaders become successful in what they're doing in this program. And beyond that, my role is also with these businesses that I'm helping to onboard onto the program to also become successful in their participation with the program. And I, my vision is not I'm going to have 100 different nonprofits that I'm going to work with. My vision is I'm going to have a few key nonprofits and
Yeah.
really help them grow. Because to me, I'd rather have something that's really deep than something that's and there's nothing wrong with either approach, right? I think both approaches. If I could go out and bring in 1,000 businesses that are going to be each giving money to different nonprofits that they all love, that's amazing.
It
If
is.
if my focus is I work with 10 nonprofits, and I'm helping them expand each to 100, 150 businesses that are all contributing to their nonprofit mission. To me, that, and maybe it's because I crave relationships. I like building relationships. And by this approach, I'm able to do that
For sure.
versus the other approach.
Well, we're super excited to see the work you're doing. You're truly leading from the front. You're making a difference. Let's pivot one more time. I'm going to pivot twice before this call is up. I'm going to pivot once more.
Okay.
You have this magic wand, and you get to, with all the wisdom you have today, now that you understand your health, your mindset, um, probably this year has probably been more life changing for you than recent. But if you had a chance to go back to speak with, 20-year-old Lisbeth, 16-year-old Lisbeth, what would some of those conversations be, knowing what you know today? Well, you have a daughter that age, so let's assume now that you had the conversation with her and she actually listened. I have two daughters that were once their age, and they had very selective hearing.
Yeah, yeah. I would have, if I would have been my own mother, and there's nothing wrong with my mom's approach to how she raised me. I think she did a phenomenal job, and she was very strict, as most Cuban moms are.
Sure.
She did really fantastic in that approach. But my approach as a mother to my own child, which, if I was having the conversation with younger me, that's how it would be as a mother. It would, I would have been a lot more upfront. I'm very upfront with my daughter. I tell her things exactly as they are. I paint the picture sometimes as grim as I can, because if I
Right.
don't get her buy-in as to why, hey, I don't want you to spend the night at a friend's house. Well, why? Because I said so. Because I said so is not an answer.
Right.
And a lot of adults feel like they don't need to give answers to their kids, but that child is still a person, and you need to get them to buy into your concepts
Right.
in order for there to be to be ease and flow, and for them to understand. And for me, it's always been, how can I get my kids to buy into what I'm saying without me having to force them? And I think I would have taken that approach of, let me show you, little Lisbeth, why the world works in this way, and why you shouldn't do this, and why you should do that, why you should focus on this. But right now, I'm really focused on being a mom to adult Lisbeth, and making sure I make solid decisions going forward.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
reading one of your quotes, you talk about it's super important to be around like minded people.
Hmm.
That could be taken as, well, yeah, that makes sense. But you felt that it was important enough to mention as a distinction. Um, share a little bit about that. Why it's not only important but necessary to be around like minded people.
Well, it's not just being around like-minded people. It's making sure that every single message that goes into your mind has the same type of frequency. In other words,
Is this the
I
part about alignment?
yes, it is about alignment. It's 100% about alignment.
Okay.
And I have done a really great job in isolating myself, because that's what I've done over the last 6 months. I've isolated myself from everyone that I once knew, except for family. And I'm 100% comfortable with that, because it's something that I had to do in order to figure out where I am, clean out all of the noise, and simplify all of my surroundings.
Sure.
And then look at everything from the music that I listen to, the TV that I watch, which I hardly watch TV, but I think you could count YouTube as TV watching, and I do watch YouTube. So
Got it.
I can't say I don't watch TV, but making sure that all of those messages that you're feeding into your mind, the books you're reading, the music you're listening to, that everything is in alignment with the person that you desire to be. Because if it's not, you can't be heading in a positive direction if you're listening to, some people might not agree, but if you're listening to rap music with negative lyrics, how can you be training your mind
Right.
to be a positive person if the music that you're that's coming out of your mouth has negative connotations to it?
No, you're 100% correct. Um, you just dated both of us, but you're
I did.
100% correct. So, in the couple of minutes we have left, tell me what 1 year from now looks like, 5 years from now looks like, and then beyond.
Well, I'm living in the present.
Yeah.
I have had to really take a leap and bounce to let go of the past and not let the past stories define who I am today. And I also look at the future that way. I don't. The other day, um, I I took about an hour to write down my financial goals, and I put them on the back of my door. I taped them up, and I did it by months. It was very elaborate. And I put it behind my door because that's the first thing that I see in the morning, right? I go to open
Sure.
the door and there's all my goals listed. And I quickly realized that that's not the space for me. I have to be in the flow. I have to allow flow. And that means that I live in the now. What does 5 years look like? I have no idea. I
Okay.
could plan it out. And people say, well, if you don't have a goal, then how do you know that you're going to get there? And it's like going on a ship and not having a destination. Well, I'm not on a ship. I'm living my life and God is steering my ship.
Yep.
So I live in the now, I live in this moment. 5 years from now, who knows where I will be? God knows where I will be. And my job is to stay in the flow and live in the moment.
That's awesome. Lisbeth, you are amazingly intuitive, extremely deep, thoughtful, and intentional. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, but it's also been a real pleasure getting to know you. You definitely march to a different beat. And it's a great beat, by the way.
Thank you.
You're professional. You get things done. You make it all happen. I'm going to look forward to more and more and more opportunities to work closer with you, more often with you, and longer with you, because I just know it's a good investment of my time, not just because of what we can achieve with the nonprofits and in the community, but also I think it just makes me want to be a better version of myself as well, because I think that's the level of respect I have to be around you. So I'm excited about that. Thank you for taking an hour to speak with us today.
Thank you.
We're going to definitely want to hear more as we get different results from these nonprofits that you're working with, and analytics and all of that. We're going to want to celebrate some of that and invite some of those nonprofits on the show as well. And it'll just be like a Comedy Central roast. We'll have you in the middle, and then we'll have everybody talk about their experiences with you. And it'll be a free for all at that point.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate knowing you. I really do believe it's a blessing. And I look forward to continuing to expand on our working relationship. And as the Share 360 expands and to be able to impact more people. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wonderful. You have a wonderful day, Lisbeth. Thank you for taking some time. We'll talk to you soon.